Hi, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Degrees. My name's Adrian.
And I'm Alex.
And today, we have a special guest. Special guest is Jack of Dungeon Club Games. Hi, Jack.
Hello.
Yeah. Jack is a professional dungeon master. That's his gig. That's what he does.
Whoa.
How many games do you have right now?
Currently, 5. We just finished our Curse of Strahd that we were doing. I ran it to level 20, which I do not recommend. But we just finished that.
People?
Well, no, I mean it just is. It was long. It was long. We had a lot of fun, but at the end of it all, everyone was like, "Man, that was a long campaign, wasn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, Curse of Strahd is supposed to be like, a 10 session." But yeah, so 5 right now, and I'm gearing up. Right now, I'm finishing up my Kickstarter, but next month I'm I'm probably going to start both. I'm probably going to do a Daggerheart game and a Fallout RPG game.
Nice.
Just to mix it up instead of running 5e all week. But
Nice. Because you ended that campaign, are these players that you kind of play with? Are they going to another game, or they're like going to disperse?
so the basic setup. So I all my games are not hosted by, but essentially set up through startplaying.games.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially people go in there and they window shop, kind of like Airbnb. I have this time slot available on this day, and I want to pay this much, and they sync up with you. And my groups, the way it works is for the most part, I probably will, over the course of a campaign, 1 or 2 seats might rotate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, they stick through. So that group right now, I think I have one person that had to leave, but the rest of them, we're basically voting on what we're going to do next.
Nice.
And essentially, because I prices change based on the amount of time the game's going to be, or what my needs are at the time, what my family needs.
Yeah.
I might raise a price or lower a price, but if you get in a game at a certain price point, I just lock you into that price point as long as you keep your seat. So I have some guys who've been playing with me. They're on their second campaign now, the third campaign, because we did like a mini campaign in between, and they're locked in much lower rate because they got in this good. So yeah. But yeah, so I'll basically have a bunch of pitches of things I want to run, and then we'll take a vote and see what people want to play and what sounds fun, and if they want to. At the end of the day, if they want to run something, I'll run it. I'm not too picky, but I am trying to mix up my offerings so that
Yeah. You've been doing 5e for so long, you gotta branch out a little, make sure it's new and fresh in the relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you set up your price point as a professional?
Through a lot of trial and error. I started much lower, obviously. So the way I started, basically before this, my last 15 plus years of adulthood, maybe longer. I'm not going to do the math. I've worked in a restaurant. So what I did is one by one I removed a shift with a game, and just over the course of a year I was basically working both gigs kind of on top of each other while I transitioned out of one into the other, and I make about what I made at the restaurant before. So I just try to make sure that I'm hitting each session is what I need to make my finances work. And basically I charge $25 a session, a seat, for games that are like publicly hosted, like the ones that I put up and people can sign on to. Mostly, and then I charge $30 if someone comes and says, "Hey, I've got a group. We want to play this specific thing. We want you to run it this way." That'd be a little more custom tailored, a little bit more like what the client wants to play versus like a group offering that anyone can jump in on.
Right.
So I do that, and then if you're in a game of mine and then you join a second game, I bump it down to $20. So most of my players are at least in one other game. And that was maybe the most surprising thing about any of this is because it's not, it's not exactly cheap. I mean, $20 a session, $25 a session isn't cheap. I couldn't afford it, but it is still cheaper than like going to the movies, and that's how most people kind of break it down. There are a million great places online, communities where you can find free to run games, and for the core of people's needs, I think that's what most people will do and should do. Finding a group and finding friends to play with. But if you're in the position where you can only make it happen when you have time constraints, I can only play at this time because my job demands this or this and this. It makes it an interesting, it makes it maybe a better situation for some other people. The other upside to it is like everybody's got a little money on the table, so everyone's like really invested. They're maybe the most invested games of D&D I've ever played. Pre-pandemic, when I just played with friends, so I've been DMing for about a decade just for people I knew. People, they're just hanging. Not everybody's there because they really love D&D. Everybody's there because they love being around each other and they maybe like the action, or they're drinking, they're doing this, but they're on their phone, and like no shade, like be on your phone or whatever, but it's when everyone's got a little bit more investment, and the sessions almost always happen. So we have very rarely, I might cancel one game. Out of 4 games in a month, you're definitely going to play 3,
Yeah, because there's a job, and yeah.
And it definitely requires an ability to the privilege of being able to focus on it. Mm-hmm. I certainly can only get in this position because my wife was super like helpful and like supportive. We have the dual income thing, which helps a lot. And I had to, it took a while. For a while, I was doing both gigs on top of each other, and it took a lot of our time up. So. But now it's really convenient because I have a really small child, so I stay home with him all day, and then I do this when he goes to bed, and we don't have to pay for childcare either. So that's another.
It's on top of the cost that is to raise a child.
Dude, let's not even start. That would make it. That's a totally different podcast. The cost of raising a child.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
All right. So, what made you like aware that this was a possibility of like online DMing? Like, what was your first intro to it?
Well, I saw an article on Reddit a million years ago of, I think it was of Devin, the one of the co-founders of Start Playing. Before he had founded the company, just like got in Business Insider or something. I could be making that up, but it was something like that, like an article like this person making a living playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I was managing a restaurant at the time, and I was like, and no shade to any of the places I've worked, but if you've worked in a restaurant, it's awful. It's even the best restaurant job will kill you. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So I got in my brain, and then the pandemic happened, and people got very comfortable with being online and doing things, paying for things, and being in online spaces like that, like college. I think the moment people started really seeing education as a viable form through the medium of being online, a lot of other things kind of opened up in people's brains. And I've been running games for like 16 years now. And this has just always been like my hyperfixation. It was a situation where if I wasn't doing this 5-6 nights a week, I would want to be doing it 5 to 6 nights a week, and that would be disruptive if it wasn't more beneficial. So for me, the pressure of having, I personally don't think you should turn your hobbies into businesses necessarily. I don't think that is a great method for most people, but for me, having a chance to do it as often as I actually wanted to, made it a, a benefit as opposed to like, oh my god, you can't schedule another game tonight. You have to. We have to like fold towels or whatever, you know. So
We have to do laundry.
yeah, we have to do laundry. We have to like live life.
Yeah, that's fair. What do you still run any like private like at home games? Do you hustle for free?
No, yeah, 100%. It's one of those situations, right, where it's like the game I run online is a game I'm really proud of, but it is a performance and it's a product. I put a lot of effort into making sure that each session feels a very specific way, that it's for everybody, which means that I am still playing because that is part of the game for me, right? But I am playing like D&D. I'm playing a version of D&D. It's my version, like everyone else's. Everyone has their own way they do it. But it's not 5e is not my favorite system by a long shot. I like the game we play. I love the game we play, but it's not my favorite system. And I desperately want to play those games. So I have a group that with one of my writing partners. He's a DM as well, so we'll do workshop games together, like run new games together. And then there was a while, and I stopped doing it because I didn't have time in my schedule. But for a while, I ran an in-person game at a local bar. It's about 5 or 6 blocks from my house, and every other week we'd host a game, and that one was just a community, like show up and we play Morkborg or like Mouse Ritter or Liminal Heart, like really easy, light systems.
Yeah.
It was mostly aimed at people who had never played before. And it was super fun, but unfortunately right now the way the money thing is, I got to run 6 games a week to make this make sense.
Yeah.
And maybe eventually when I'm writing more stuff, maybe I can host some more public facing games, but that is the sacrifice. The sacrifice is that you are those games take precedent over anything else that you might want to do. But big boo-hoo.
No. It's capitalism always wins at the end.
So. Yeah, it really does. It's really
yeah.
That's why we try to knock them down a peg 6 days a week. So at least in our brains.
Yeah.
The Brennan Lee Mulligan School of DMing.
Yeah, every session is just another lesson to be learned to fight against the capitalistic hellscape we live in.
Yeah.
What was your introduction? You've been doing this for 15, 16 years. You're not going to do the math. I'm not going to remember the math. How did you get into TTRPGs?
I went to school for music theater, theater kid, which makes a lot of sense.
Checks out.
I went to school. I went to school for music theater, and around my junior year, I was like, "Man, this is really expensive, and I don't want to go do this for a living." So I dropped out of school. I got a restaurant job, and I suddenly had a lot of free time. So I was already almost done with college when I really first started playing. I guess we did a little bit before then. But it just became I became a devout hyperfixation of mine, and originally just playing. I played with a friend whose older brother taught him, so it was just kind of it was fun just to learn about the ritual of the passing down of knowledge, and there's like an interesting like anthropological element to D&D. Like you learn things from the people who taught you, who have gaming styles from the way that they were taught, and you kind of like pass that on to the people who learn from you and incorporate things from them. And so I started to answer the question more succinctly. I started playing
You're good,
3.5, and then we Pathfinder 1 specifically. So right. Pathfinder, and then I ran some 4E, which I didn't hate. 4E is maybe one of the best games that Wizards has ever made. It's just not a great D&D game, but it's a very good game. And then 5E came out, and that was my life for a very long time. Just being completely absorbed in in running those games, and at that point, just for like 6 people, there wasn't. I think I have like 36 clients right now, but.
Intimidating, dude. I think I had a time where I had 2 games, and I was like, "You guys know this person?" They're like, "No, we've never heard those words out of your mouth," and I'm just like, "Oh, that was the other game. I'm so sorry."
I do that all the time, so that's not. But to make it even worse, all my games have a shared setting. So the things that one group does affects the other group, and I think that's one of the reasons people play in at least another game, so they can kind of see the after effects of that. One thing I don't do is unless they're like a person, like a baker or like like a real world NPC. I don't have a bunch of fantasy names running around. Pretty much everything just has like a general moniker. So I like the Butcher, the Acolyte, the Tower of Doom. I'm not remembering Azcathars and Hothalays and just fantasy gibberish names fry my brain. So if you start doing that, it's a lot easier to keep track. Oh, the Frogman. Yes. His name might be something else, but I'm going to call him the Frogman because he's a frogman.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
I've fallen down that rabbit hole, and I'm just like, I think I called it this, and I'm like looking through my notes, and I'm like, this is just chicken scratch. It's this now, so we're just gonna go with it.
Roll20 does all the heavy lifting for my notes because I one of the things I do is since I'm all online, right?
Yeah.
I do grab lots of visual reference and make a lot of visual assets. So if I know we're gonna have a bar fight, like for instance, the game I'm playing tonight, I have a game 30 minutes after we're done here, by the way.
Thank you for being here.
My Western game, I wanted to have a saloon fight where they're trying to save this NPC who had gotten this parasite inside of them that was transforming her, yada yada yada. So I get the art, and then I'll put some text on I found a saloon interior I liked, and I put some text signifying some zones. All the NPCs get little portraits, and I'll type my notes on their actual tokens. So I don't use a ton of battle maps, but I use a lot of it's basically like fantasy Pinterest boards. You know what I mean? It's like fantasy mood board.
Yeah.
Is my best friend says you get paid to make mood boards, and I was like, yeah, a little bit. I'm a very visual person, so having like art for an NPC helps me remember so much about it, and I can take down little notes on the token. But my notes, as far as like what I keep in Obsidian, are not good. They should be better.
Dabbled in Obsidian, and they're like, hey, you can connect all these things, and I'm it's hard
fire.
for me to remember.
It's fire. My one of my players on the Tuesday night, fantastic note taker, he uses Obsidian's publish feature, so our entire campaign is like online in like the searchable document with all the NPCs connected. I was like, how can I get you to do this for all my games? This would be
free games for life.
Yeah.
I need to get better at that. I'm trying to draw something up, and I want things to connect, but I'm just like learning the functions too slow, and I have so much going on in my brain. I'm like, did I already connect this or not? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how to do any of it. None of it.
It's nice to keep everything organized, you know?
Yeah,
You have Google Docs, it's like, the most recent, and that's all you get, okay? Good luck looking for the notes you put way down a couple months ago.
Yeah, I just have note cards that are
oh my gosh.
Just everywhere. And
me too.
This one says, like, fire ass?
Fire ass.
I don't know what that means.
It'll come up. You'll get into a it won't.
No, it won't. It won't.
Mine just says soap flash, and I don't know what the fuck that means.
What is wrong with y'all? What is wrong?
Y'all? Oh yeah. No. Okay. Alex is a good note taker compared to me.
You're a note taker. Yeah. I wish I had that skill, I'd be an unstoppable machine if I could put down my thoughts on paper in any legible, useful way. But no.
If I could pre-plan, that's where I lack it. So where I make up in like keeping moderately to pretty good okay notes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a Google, for me, it's just a Google Doc, and I use the section titles so that I can hop around there. Because I was there. It's there. I used it for college. Like, I like it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's fine. But I don't plan anything. Then I'm like, I should do this, and then
planning's overrated.
Yeah, I get to that point of the week. I'm like, oh man, I really should have done this earlier, and now I'm stressing about it. So I'm just gonna frantically stress about it rather than doing anything productive.
Yeah. That will be how I affect it. Will be just by carrying the shame of not doing the thing. Prep is good, but it's over. I don't know. I guess it's like where you prep, right? Prepping is not any one thing at any given time. It's always adjusting. I like to prep in big. I just think of them like DLC. I just kind of think I'm running a video game. You know what I mean? Like, that's how my brain. So I prep each new area, like DLC. You'll have a new area, handful of people, kind of loose relationships. I'm grabbing portraits when I'm making NPCs, which I highly suggest, even if you're not doing stuff online. Just going through Pinterest and finding things to inspire you it's a really easy way to build out a city. So like my
mood boards.
Mood board. My noir game, when I started that game, I already had 100 NPCs, like portraits, and single word names, and each of them had a vibe, and I maybe wrote down like a scientist or like government guy, you know what I mean? Like I maybe put a note with each of them, and then as I'm playing the game, then when I need an NPC, I just go to my roster of people and I pull one out. And so I mean, like I spent 4 or 5 hours making all those portraits, but I didn't ever made a new NPC for that. We're on session 65 of that game, and I've only made a handful of other NPCs because there's so many people already.
It's a world. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You mean you voice each and every one of those guys?
Maybe not like voice actor voice. A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, but I have like, but the truth is, you have like one voice that's per archetype, maybe.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
like,
pretty much.
Because like in my 1920s game, like I can only do so many secretaries that sound like this. You know.
Yeah.
They all sound like that. It's like
yeah, exactly. They're all of them.
They're
all gonna sound. That was the sound. And like only so many. This voice can only be done so many ways. There's not really anything beyond. There's no changing of monster voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The novelty of the monster voice is like, oh, we already heard this. Is this guy the same guy? No, it's a different monster from a totally different thing.
What I try to do is give every NPC one just like quirk, one distinguishing. Like because I have the images, right? So that does a lot of the shorthand for me. I'm not having to be like, oh, he's 5'2" and 300 pounds and looks really sexy. I don't have to describe that. I can just have a picture. But then, like, what are they doing personality wise? I always think of. Have you guys played Disco Elysium? Yes. I'm sorry. It's so good. It's so good. The man on Waterlock, who's before you can get to the second half of Revachol, there's a guy and he's like, oh, they're repairing the bridge. He's eating a salami the whole time, and it's a salami he stole from his coworker or his brother, I think. And at some point you can just start talking about the salami and it'll offer you the salami. It does nothing. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? Commenting on the salami does no. But he's one of the most important NPCs that I've ever interacted with. He's resonated with me so much. I always ask myself, what's their salami? So what's the guy? What is this person doing that makes them memorable beyond just the picture, because not everybody's super visual, you know.
Right.
But yeah, it's a trip. I think that everybody who was interested in professional DMing, though, like, should look into it, and you don't need to make it your whole time gig. But you would be surprised about the amount of people who are just way more comfortable trying to find a game on their own terms when they have the handhold of capitalism walking them through the path. You know what I mean? Like it feels a little less like demandy, and a little less you're entering a space and more like a space being curated for you. And I think people like that. Also, like, we're all friends now, you know what I mean? So now they have to support me, because if they don't, they know that I, a person, will die, and that's
it's true. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but it's true.
But we also point out that, like, Adrian, I make the joke in our little friend group that, like, the same $100 just, like, gets passed around the group. Like, it's
100%.
We're not getting any more. It's the same.
Yeah. Here's a gift for you. Oh, and you're gonna give
mutual
me a gift,
aid.
and then I give it to you.
Yeah.
Mutual aid takes many shapes and forms, and community is the only thing that's going to save us from the impending doom of this world. And
that is true.
And you know, this is something I do really well. Like, I toot my horn. I not to say I'm the best at it, or other people aren't just as good at me, or that you have to be paid to be good. So I try really hard to dismiss the notion that it isn't a signal. I'm sure there are plenty of paid DMs that are absolutely terrible. I wouldn't know, but you know, it's just like anything else. I'm sure that there are.
Yeah.
But anytime we can help each other out, and respect each other's time and energy, and of course, like I've had guys, hey, I'm gonna have to drop out. My car got totaled, and yada yada yada. And I'm just like, you know, don't pay for a while, or you know what I mean. Like you don't have to leave the game. It's not super. The nice thing about the setup and start playing is I'm in charge of all of that. So they process all the money and stuff, and like I don't have to deal with the actual, like, hey, like send me a Venmo request or whatever.
Give me your credit card.
Yeah, exactly. But as far as like how much to charge or when they get charged, it's all private, and I can do that on my end, which is really nice. So refund things myself. But yeah, it's a trip. I definitely like think that it is an interesting thing that can only exist in the world we're in now. I definitely understand why some people are really against it. I was one of those people at one point, you know. So like, whenever someone kind of comes at me, I understand where they're coming from, because I am also a nerd, and I also understand what it feels like to have people kind of do things in the name of something that you care about and misrepresent it. And then also just the inherent like ego of the thing. GMs are egotistical by nature. There's just a certain level of hubris with like, everybody gather around while I tell ye a story. You know, it's like,
also I'm God.
Yeah, and my rulings are infallible. Like there's and I'm everybody. Oh, you get to play a character? I play 100 characters. You know, it's.
I'm your mom. I'm your dad.
I'm your girlfriend, bro. Get over here. Give me some sugar. I am your neighbor.
No, I mean, I think I can understand where it might get the bad rap, but like I am even applying that to like going to the gym. Like I am more successful if I go into a group fitness class. Like I will pitter patter around. I'm more likely to pay to go into like some group fitness, but like I'm at the gym I go to, I pay no matter what. So I can either pay and then pitter patter myself and then be mad that I'm not making any of the gains that I want, or God forbid I'm not making any friends. Or I can let somebody else do the thinking, and I trust that like my money is going toward something that I need. So like if I knew I had a curated space that was like somebody actually doing this intentionally, I think I would be a lot less frustrated sometimes with playing Dungeons and Dragons, because you're right. Like, we play home games, and then you're like, somebody's got a new job, something comes up, and you're like, cool, I've just rearranged my entire life to be here, and now it's like,
oh, well, thanks. Now my time feels undervalued, and
right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I the nice thing about kind of the setup is that the part of my I'm only speaking for me, obviously. I don't know how other people run their games.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I am worried that everyone's having a good time and that everyone's getting the thing that they want from the session. And I don't fudge dice rolls. I actually roll everything front facing. Once I figured out in D&D Beyond you could roll front facing without it revealing what the creature is or what their attack is. I've done it. I haven't turned back. So people, it's dangerous. My games are dangerous, but that isn't to say, like, I am really concerned that everybody's like on their turns. You paid $20, right? And depending on how much we're doing now, I run my games mostly in turns. Like, I set up scenes. We establish a turn order, or we popcorn initiative. Everybody gets to, even if it's not combat, everyone's going to take a second to interact with the space, look at a handful of the areas, talk to the people, use a skill check, use an action, and then we'll move the camera, right? And then in combat, of course, you have your initiative turns. So you've got X amount of turns a session. I run my games at 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours, hard cutoff. I want to make sure everyone gets a decent amount of time. You know what I mean? When I'm playing at home, I'm not as concerned about that. I'm not as concerned about validating all your gaming fantasies, because you're at my table and I'm doing this out of the goodness of my love, and I have things that I want to accomplish with my game, or I want to engage you in a way that is slightly more antagonistic. Maybe we got that. That's not me, but maybe you have that relationship with one of your players, right? But it's almost like a teaching position, is kind of what it feels like. It's like you're leading a very weird lecture, and you're trying to make sure that everyone's getting their participation, because that's the grade, right? Just getting to play and getting a chance to affect the game world is the reward of playing the game. So, and in these sessions, I feel like I get a little more structure. Like, I have a little more. I was a jerk. And I was a jerk, but like 7 years ago at home, being like, "Hey, put your phone down." That's a dick move. I shouldn't have done that to begin with. But like now, when I'm like, "Okay, anything else on your turn? Let's keep things moving." Everyone's there for it, because, all right, I want to see what the next person does. We want to keep going. We've got a little bit of time together, class.
Right.
So let's. Yeah.
And
a little less ego.
Yeah. Their buy-in is costing, X amount, right? So yeah. they should, if I didn't want to be here, I can not be here. I just don't have to pay, but like...
Yeah.
I want to be here. I'm paying, and I'm going to pay also attention.
and you want them to feel like it's not just worth their, like... I mean, their time, too. I mean, it's like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you want them to play with you for a long time. And especially when you get good players, I've had a handful... that haven't been my favorite. I haven't had any horror stories. I had one guy that ghosted me, didn't pay me, but I was undercharging at that point. So, like, my only advice I give new players is, if you're going to don't start charging. Don't charge less than $20, because anyone who wants less than that should just be playing a free game. There's free games everywhere. If a person isn't playing free games but wants a free game, they've probably been kicked out of the communities in which they can find those free games, or just host a free game. Like there are tons of free games I'll start playing. Like, you can just host. It would be better to play a free game than to play a $5 game. That's a weird group of people. I feel like I could be generalizing. Those people could be coming after me after this podcast, but.
Then there's more traffic.
And you come at me, and then Jack, and then go look at the Kickstarter, and then come back to me. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Just run the circuit real quick. Figure out, do I really hate them? I don't know. Let's find out.
That's true.
Also, go look at all the other 100 episodes, by the way, just to make sure you hate me specifically.
You may double dip. You really need to know. You should know. You deserve it. You deserve to know whether you hate Adrian that much.
Yeah. Make sure you get the whole crux. I cry every now and then. We open it up. I'm not gonna say it, Alex. I'm not gonna say it, but we all know it.
I feel like post 85, there's more likely Adrian crying. I think.
Yes, that is true. Post 85.
Really?
Yeah.
Are just getting meaner? Or are you just becoming weaker?
No, I'm just he's just becoming a weaker human.
I'm being a little bitch, okay? Just to put it out there, I'm putting my emotions up front and being a little bitch.
I was born a little bitch and I'll die a little bitch. That is.
But it is interesting running something for so long and like seeing the like inherent changes that you as a person become, because you just like even you describing playing the game, like I'm literally here for my players at the table. At this point, I'm not necessarily trying to get something out for myself because that's not what they're here for. But at the same time, you are still getting to be that storyteller position that you still crave. So like it's just evolving into a different game. Same thing with us podcasting. Like we have these emotional conversations, so I generally tend to be a little more emotional. I think Adrian has also tended to be a little more outwardly emotional.
I've opened up.
Yeah,
that's good. Vulnerability is important.
It is.
Yeah, but it is interesting in like when you do things for a long time, like how that thing might change.
100%. Yeah, how in ways that you probably weren't expecting it to.
For sure.
Because you're definitely also like when you do something as a craft, right? When you're like, oh, I'm making something, and you always have an intentionality as to like it's really interesting. For instance, I like to pull a lot of mechanics from games I do like to help reinforce themes and to kind of soft introduce people to other systems. Now you get a group long enough and you could just be like, hey, next game you guys want to try something else, and they'll do that. But it's funny. I'll be like, oh, I'm going to do this way. I'm going to take this from Blades in the Dark, and I'm going to make this way, and the game's going to be like this. And then, that stuff, it works fine, but that isn't where the gameplay loop comes in, because now I've got my own, like, osmosis growth, like the thing that's happening because of the stimuli of playing with these people, and how they play the game changes how I'm going to play the game, because I think that we like to think there's a lot of one-sidedness on the GMing. I think that's kind of the in a post Matt Mercer, Abria, and Brennan Lee Mulligan world, people think the DMs like it's like a director auteur thing, right? Where it's like, oh, Steven Spielberg is a fantastic filmmaker, and it's true, he is, but also the cinematographer, the people who are the individual elements of that thing they're making actually have more to do with the thing that comes out on the other end. Right. So your players, I mean, the best stuff that is available ideology from like game philosophy wise for like the OSR, right, is role-playing games are conversation first, and mechanics help us sort out conflict resolution. And when I started thinking of it that way, and being a lot more incorporative of my players, actually I like playing with random people on the internet because they bring elements that I didn't have before, and it forces me to play and adapt my play style to meet their wants and needs, so we can have that conversation. And that has made me a really great game master, which is why everyone should be playing games all the time. If you don't have a group, you should find a good Discord community. If and let people teach you games, or I do love actual plays. I think that they are one of the most important not even life preservers. I think that we pretty much owe the modern Wizards of the Coast owes Critical Role for the sure. amount of eyes that Critical Role got on D&D. And I know no suits see it that way. And I'm not even like a big Critical Role fan. I've seen like one episode, but you know what I mean. Like what they did is undeniable, and it's just one of those things where it's like, I do love actual plays. They are very important to the culture and to like our longevity of the hobby, but they also teach people a certain style of gameplay, and it's just important that you get in there and experience games. You know, it's important to just play them, because that's not in the pursuit of like being a better player. I don't really believe in those terms. I think that a good player just is there for the buy-in, is just trying to enjoy themselves. I don't think that there are any. I kind of hate the terms, but in the idea of like loving a thing and being a part of a thing, you can only do so much from observing a thing. You gotta get dirty. You gotta take out that paper and pencil.
You gotta do it.
You gotta come in with a pen on your character sheet, realizing maybe you should have done a pencil. You know, like
nah, pen all the way, baby.
The chaos.
I'm not here for this chaos. Absolutely not. No chaos. Thank you.
Oh man.
Too chaotic.
Well then, maybe we should never play together. I don't know. No, I'm kidding.
But you just said if we wanted to grow as individuals, we should play with people who don't. No.
I'm gonna gatekeep instead. I've decided.
I do think that's really an interesting idea, because I've been. It's testing season here in the Lone Star State, and so I had the opportunity to sit in my classroom and do nothing, since I don't teach anything that's worth testing.
Mm-hmm. Dope.
And I've been listening to the behind the scenes, the Welcome to Dunder Mifflin, about the creation of The Office and the backstory, and like the way that all of that came together was like the writers and the actors and like everybody got together to create an authentic story. But everyone had just enough of a difference that like it's a little off kilter. So then that off kilter allows you to be a better creator, because you're playing off of something else that somebody else did, or somebody else is trying to throw you off balance. And then it becomes more of a, we're playing and having fun, but like our main goal is to be authentic to these characters, which is very much like TTRPGs.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna check out that podcast. Promoting podcasts on your podcast, I think, is a big no-no. By the way,
it just happens sometimes. You know, we have so many podcast hosts.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, I mean, if they're you know, if it's part of what you're doing, then yeah. But no, you're 100%.
By the way, stop listening to us. Go watch that instead.
They're doing fine. They don't need the traction. It was an audio book.
Yeah.
Okay, they took their podcast and put it into an audio book. They're fine.
Yeah, they're doing okay.
You tell me that Hit Show has a good podcast as well, and they have eyes on it because they have a fan base.
It's all
Who
great.
would have thought?
It's all great. Yeah.
Not me, who's
revolutionizing the transition from being like cable TV to like the online format, and like getting through writer strikes. That wouldn't make you like a better. That's wild, isn't it?
It's
whole
knucking futz, dude.
And hopefully all those great craftsmen will not be out of jobs. Craftspeople, I should say. And craftsmen in the gender neutral sense of the word.
With an E.
That's funny.
With an umlaut.
Yeah, hopefully those people will have their jobs in a post-generated text world, you know? Which is funny, the WotC letting go of their man who was one of their executives stepped down today. I can't remember off the top of my head. I should have brought it up, so I don't know.
No, it's all good. I was just thinking of my friend who does IATSE. I know it's a little bit different, but he's in the union over in Chicago. So like he was like out of job. We were still playing a game together. He's like, "Yep, it's okay. I still got some crackers around here somewhere." Thank goodness I'm still good with my parents.
Yeah. That relationship turned out to be very helpful in the long run.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't like burn those bridges like as soon as I turned 18, just like, fuck you, mom and dad, I'm getting out of here. But it's okay if you do that, okay, guys? If you need to, fucking do that. But like, if you don't need to, just maybe you shouldn't do that.
I mean, my kid's gonna be allowed to live with me his entire life. I don't know what world I brought him into. So there's absolutely outrageous to assume that anything of the future at this point. So,
what is the world coming to? I don't know. People keep saying World War III, but we've been saying that for the past 4 or 5 years.
And all I can do in response is like think of mechanics for games. I'm not very useful in the grand scheme of things.
I'm just one of those guys that just sits outside and reads a newspaper, you know?
Yeah. I have a continuous debate with a friend of mine that she's like, Alex, if the zombie apocalypse happens, like, you're on my team. And I was like, I'm not. I don't have skills. I'm not on your team. I'm killing myself. Like, I'm offing myself right then and there because I'm not surviving. I'm not surviving the zombie apocalypse. I am so sorry.
Yeah, me neither. No. I'm not. That's not. I mean, it's a fun game to play, I guess, but if we're being real, I'm not built for that.
I don't thrive in unconditioned air.
I have my groceries delivered. I'm not compatible with that kind of lifestyle.
I try, but I feel like I'd die to something stupid like tetanus or something. I don't know.
Just like holding your pee in for too long.
Well, see, and I would probably make it. That's the issue, is that, like, I know in my heart of hearts, like, I would try, but I would probably make it, and it'd be fine. And, like, I'd be like, I hate this. I am done. And then
there's, like, some of those characters that are like, why is this character still around? That's Alex.
That's me. It. You're like, she should be done. She should be done. She doesn't want to be here anymore. And then, still here. Still kicking. Doing whatever it is.
Until the end.
Making Legos. I don't know.
Making Legos.
Not making them, putting them together.
Yeah,
there's no way I'm even going that far back. Okay, I'm not making.
Although I bet if there was a zombie apocalypse, a Lego factory would be a cool place to have a little hideout. Because you could build all the tools. You could build all the tools you needed.
Yeah.
Lego factories can produce bricks indefinitely without any fuel. Is how my brain sees it.
Yeah, it just continues. It's like currently, in the zombie apocalypse, it's just like a big mound of just red bricks just piling up in perpetuity.
That's a good idea.
Infinite energy machine of just only for Legos, and that's
just for Legos, perpetual motion.
I want to ask you about your Kickstarter. I remember during February, I don't know, you had one and that was funded, right?
Yes, yeah. So I make content over on TikTok, and I started doing stuff on TikTok. I just wanted to be in the space. I started doing a TikTok so I could recruit people for my games. That was and it's a decent tool. You can spend $5 on an ad on TikTok, and if you're trying to fill 2 seats. I mean, like, that's a good return. 1,000 people will see it. I would normally get 1 or 2 bites from each ad, but I did some GM advice thing, and it's a very saturated space, and there are people that are very good at that, and that's kind of, I don't really love being on camera, despite having like I was never an actor because I liked acting necessarily. I went to school for acting because I liked pretending. I like to pretend that specifically. So. So I got on there, and then I made a graphic one day just because I was trying to explain a concept, and I was like, it'll just be easier to make this graphic. And I made the graphic, and it blew up in terms of, like, I was just getting like 200 views, and it did like 2,000. I was like, holy crap! So, and then I for like 6 months I made a graphic a day. I just pumped out stuff it was like people are paying attention. And I'm not going to lose the attention. And I just treated it like a job, even though I can tell you I now have 15,000 followers, almost 16,000 followers, and I have made 2 cents on the platform. So my photo posts are ineligible for any of that money, so I make no money from TikTok. But I do have a Patreon with almost 100 patrons, and that's where I keep all those things kind of in perpetuity, right? So if you wanted to, it's not super convenient to get on TikTok to find all those graphics or whatever. Right. But they're just like basically system agnostic tools. They're a handful of 5e stuff. They all do kind of lean towards being able to be used in 5e. But when I make these things, I tend to like put them through like 2 or 3 games. I think will this work with PF2? Will this work with 5e? Will this work with Merkborg? Will it work with a roll under system like Cairn? So it's like I try to make the rules so that they work maybe with like 5 or 6 systems.
Gotcha.
And then Zine Quest came up in February, and I saw a couple of other creators being like, we're making zines. And I got so fucking jealous. I decided to...
I want in.
I did. I sat there, I was like... And I love everyone on TikTok that they're all my friends. So I'm jealous of my,
right.
I'm looking at, I respect these people, and I wanted to be like them. So I was like, okay. So I was like, I'm just going to take all the stuff that I've made, all these relics in my head. I've already got the likes, I've already got the views for all those things. So they might as well, they're a Faguzi, they're a Fugazi, fairy dust. They don't exist anymore. And I decided, well, my best friend Nick was like, dude, don't make a game or whatever, just put those in a book. You've already done all that, just put it all in a book. I was like, yeah, of course. So I took all those relics and I'm remastering them currently. So the Kickstarter fulfilled. I had a goal of like $175 because I was like, I'm gonna make this either way, and I ended up doing I think $31.55, so $3,155. Blew it out of the water. And then I've done like another like 200 in pre-orders on my itch since then. I'm really in the thick of it right now. It is chugging along. I promised a May delivery. I wanted to do early May. It might be later May. I might have to deliver it in piece and parcel. It has like there's like there's like 100 and I just changed the count yesterday. It's like 140 different items, not just like magic items, but like things in it. And then I had some stretch goal stuff that I put in there. So it's gonna be a massive document. I'm only like halfway through my magic item list right now. It's already like 50 pages. So it's gonna be a beast, and it's all PDF. So I didn't do a print run. What I wanted was I wanted $175 and a successful Kickstarter under my belt, so that when I did something next time, I could say, hey, I've done this. But
I know what I'm doing.
yeah, it's all fake it till you make it, right? So I mean, it really is
pretty good. You keep making it.
Yeah. And I was really, really jazzed. I managed to convert a lot of people from TikTok, which is really, really tough to do. It's hard to get people off the app. Now, not nearly like, at that point I had like 13,000 followers. So it wasn't any of those numbers, but like 1% of that is still a lot of people, right. If we're talking in terms of them investing in a project. And then Kickstarter is a great platform. It does a lot of the lifting for you, showing off your stuff. So, yeah, so that hopefully be out by the end of May. And when it does come out, it will have 40 something magic items. Here, I can pull it up real quick. I can tell you. And some of the stuff's 5e, but most of it's system agnostic. The idea is I like making things that are kind of evocative and get your creative juices going, and maybe give you guidelines. And then since I make stuff for DMs mostly, I know when I get third-party stuff, I prefer using third-party stuff that isn't D&D 4x D&D games, because that means I get to figure out how they interact in the system.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people would really, really respond to being able to put their own stamp on an idea, as opposed to just being like, oh, I got this off the internet, and now I'm using this thing off the internet. So I try to make just the mechanics be really evocative and not really thematic, So 40 items, 7 encounters, 6 full adventures, 20 of just like tools, just like things the way like I run games, or like monster attacks. 4 generators, 6 monsters, 8 big bads, 4 NPCs, and I also did a Kickstarter. So there's going to be an NPC generator thing that kind of uses my rules for followers. I have these streamlined rules for followers that make followers feel almost more like magic items that people have, as opposed to like another character they have to run. And then I also have a setting book that got kickstarted in it, so there's going to be like a little setting guide that you can use, and it's going to be kind of like a choose your own adventure kind of setting thing. So it's less like you're using my setting guide and more like here's a bunch of prompts that can help you build a world very quickly. And then I have two of my own. I have my own micro system, micro RPG that I made, and that's in there as well. So it's hefty, man. It's hefty. It will have some virtual tabletop assets, and I'm just so happy that I was gonna make it either way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I'm just really happy that I was able to like get a new computer. You know, that was pretty useful since I needed it. You know, so very, very lucky, very fortunate. And honestly, the best part of all of it is that, and this, it's got to be the same for y'all. It's like, it is nice to like make things. It's nice to say things. It's nice to put your opinion out in the world. It is even better when at least 1 or 2 people see it and hear it. Like it is important to express yourself, and art doesn't need an observer for it to be good for the creator, but like the person who created it, you know. But man, it sure feels nice when you know people have seen the thing that you put time and energy to. I desperately crave pats on the backs and scratches behind the ears, you know. Like I don't need people to tell me I'm the best. I just want people to be like, I see you and this is neat and thank you. I love it because you know, I put it on TikTok and I get people and they're like, hey, this is cool, I'm gonna use this. And that's so fun. It's fun to be like that's the anthropology thing I was talking about. It's like, it's how cool that like maybe there's a game somewhere where like I spurred an idea that is now the big bad of that campaign. It's not I didn't do that. They're doing all of that. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the focus where my content online is for. And after I get this one done, I'm going to be doing my next Kickstarter is going to be a full-fledged system. So I'll be doing game after
That's
that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm excited for that. I've dabbled in creating like a setting book, but like it's just so daunting. I don't know. I have a bad idea of like perfectionism in myself where it's like I'm not doing well, I'm going to be shit forever. It has to be perfect the first time, and if it's not, why even try?
Well, I mean, I understand 100% because if I hadn't had the positive reinforcement and the dopamine hit of having some stuff go viral, right? I probably wouldn't have created all these things, and I wouldn't have had this stuff to put in a book. So, like, basically just started looking at that platform as like, oh, I'm just workshopping stuff. These aren't even, you know, like this isn't even. This is now my massive think tank. And I can see what works and you know what doesn't. But I no, I mean I've been wanting to write just D&D stuff like for years. I had a whole setting and I took notes and it seemed so big. But you know, once again I was fortunate enough to be able to do things like, oh, I'm gonna treat this like a job, you know, because I've got a good support system and I need to be home because I have a young kid. You know what I mean? Like I had all these things that lined up. When people ask me all the time, it's like, how do you do this? It's like, it's just luck. You know, it's just like, you got to keep trying. But if I didn't keep trying, the people in my life wouldn't have seen fit to support me. They would have gone, well, you don't really mean it. But, and there were a few times where I had to be like, no, I really mean this. I really believe that this can work. But at the end of the day, it's because of that support I had. Even my job. I mean, I worked at that restaurant. The last restaurant I worked at, I still really love all the people. It was actually a really great job. It was just bartending at that point, so it was a really easy job comparatively to like running the place or whatever. But daytime bartending work is not that hard. I mean, it's still bartending work, but it's not that hard. But I was like, hey, I'm going to start slow quitting. So next week, I'm not, like in 2 weeks, can I not work Mondays? And then 2 months later, hey, I need to not work Tuesdays anymore. So by the end of my time there, I was only doing 1 shift a week. No restaurant's going to let you do that unless you've built a relationship with them.
Right.
I'd been with them for like 5 years. So, it's not something you can do overnight, but nothing is, and time passes anyways, So like, if it takes you 5-10 years to do something, in my head, to get where I am at, it's taken me my entire adult life. And I'm 37. So like, I felt like a failure for many, many years because I wasn't ticking boxes and I wasn't doing a good capitalism, and I'm not making bakoodles of cash now, but I am way more, I don't know, I'm healthier. I'm just a healthier, happier person. And also I quit drinking. That was a big one, man. That helped out. That helped a ton. Especially in the industry, it's really hard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah.
Drinking is like the culture.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't have had the energy to also invest in myself on top of that if I have. So, I mean, I guess, work for 17 years, have a kid late in life, discover weird shit about your brain and your gender and shit through TikTok in your late 30s. And through that mind fuckery, hopefully you can figure out some things that make, there is no advice to get.
Wow, you just explained being a millennial. That's crazy. That's
Got it. I need to go make a kid now. No,
it's wild.
It's nuts, man. It's nuts.
All right, Jack, where can they find you?
You can find me on TikTok at dungeonclubgames.com. I'm sorry, at Dungeon Club Games. You can find my website, dungeonclubgames.com. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram, Dungeon Club Games. There's a theme there. And on Start Playing, Jack Panic Dungeon Club Games. Linktree Dungeon Club Games. Dungeon Club Games. If you type that into the search bar, it will take you to me.
Right up there. If you're on the YouTubes, just do it now. If you're on the Spotify, you got to go to a different app. I'm sorry.
And if you're interested in nothing else, you can follow. I have lots of free resources on my Twitch, on my itch page. Not my Twitch. I don't do anything on my Twitch hardly, but on my itch, free stuff for your D&D games that you can download right now. So
there you have it. They'll all be in the description below as well.
They'll be somewhere. Or if you
or not, I don't really
internet,
care.
Just like.
Hey, I'm putting in the work. Come on, just
I'm as happy to hang out with you. Thank you so much for having me on your program. I really appreciate it. I like it in the app, so.
Hey, I like listen to you yap. Okay.
It's a good yap. Honestly, 10 out of 10.
Oh wow. Well, I'm gonna sleep
Easy.
good tonight.
Easy.
Sleep good tonight.
That's your validation for today.
Oh, thank you. I needed that. I love it. Validation.
Thank you, dear listener, for joining us on another episode. You can find us where all pods are cast. So get your friends, family, loved ones, enemies, arch rivals, nemesis. Just get them the link. Or Google, or Bing, I guess. We are here now in this post-Bing world.
That's a callback.
It is a call. It's a deep dive. Someone might call it a deep dive into previous episodes, or the one before this. I don't know.
Depending what order you decide to watch these in.
I guess you're right.
Listen to these in.
You're the chaotic listener, and you're just jumping through all crazy.
Just a random number generator.
I want somebody to come and tell us that that's how they watch this or they listen to this. Please tell me you're taking the Slaughterhouse 5 route. I'm just jumping around. You can also find us on Discord and Patreon and all the social medias. Thank you so much for listening. This is less chaotic than it was last time, so you're welcome.
Aww.
I don't know what people like. Nobody tells me, so I just do whatever I am.
No.
I have no validation.
Listen. There's we gotta still do a Dante corner eventually. Don't worry about it, okay? He's been talking to us. Yeah, my brother. Yeah, he's been posting
Dante's
on the Spotify.
Inferno.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Thank you guys so much for listening. My name's Adrian.
And I'm Alex.
I'm Jack.
Go have some fun. Thank you.